Hey guys, and welcome back. Today, we're going to be entering the world of inspirational women in history. Today, we are going to learn about three more wonderful, inspiring, and life-changing women that have done so many things that we take for granted now. Are you ready? Let's go. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Miss Bree. I'm an educator, a farmer, an illustrator, a singer, and a proud grammar nerd. Welcome to the Farm School. First up, we're going to talk about Katherine Johnson. Katherine Johnson was born in 1918 in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia. From the time that she was very, very young, numbers just made sense to her. She counted everything: steps to the door, dishes in the sink, stars in the sky. Her teachers quickly realized that she was extraordinary. By age 10, she had already started high school. At 18, she graduated from college with degrees in mathematics and French, during an era when very few Black women even attended university. But opportunities were definitely limited. She did become a teacher because teaching was one of the few professions open to educated Black women at the time. But then, in 1953, she heard that the federal government was hiring mathematicians, including women, to work as human computers at the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, which is NACA, the predecessor to NASA. She applied, and by doing so, she stepped into history. Katherine joined the West Area Computing Unit at NACA, a segregated division where Black women performed complex mathematical calculations by hand. She quickly distinguished herself with her analytical brilliance. When NASA prepared to send Alan Shepard into space in 1961, Katherine calculated his trajectory, determining exactly where the spacecraft would land. However, her most famous moment came in 1962. As astronaut John Glenn prepared to orbit the Earth, engineers ran the flight path through the newly installed electronic computers. However, John Glenn didn't really fully trust the machines. He said, quote, "Get the girl to check the numbers." The girl was Katherine Johnson. She manually verified the computer's calculations, and only then did Glenn agree to launch. She later contributed to the calculations for Apollo 11's moon landing, and even created emergency return paths that helped to save the Apollo 13 crew. For decades, Katherine Johnson's work was largely unknown to the public. She quietly retired in 1986 after a 33-year-long career. But in 2016, the film Hidden Figures, which if you haven't seen it, you really need to, it's an amazing film, brought her story and the stories of her colleagues Dorothy Vaughan and Mary Jackson into the spotlight. She received the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2015 and the Congressional Gold Medal in 2019. NASA has even named a research facility in her honor. Katherine once said, "I just did my job." But her job helped to launch the space age. She proved that intelligence has no gender and no color. She showed that sometimes the most powerful force in history isn't a rocket. It's the person who calculates where it will land. Next up, we have Florence Nightingale. Now, Florence Nightingale was born in 1820 into a wealthy British family. She was named after the city of Florence, Italy, where she was born. Now, her parents expected her to grow up, marry well, and live a comfortable social life. But Florence felt something different. As a teenager, she believed she had received a, quote, calling from God to serve others, specifically to care for the sick. At the time, nursing was not considered a respectable profession. Hospitals were dirty, chaotic, and often more dangerous than the illnesses themselves. Her family strongly opposed her decision, but Florence persisted. She studied nursing in Germany and France, learning new sanitation practices and hospital organization techniques. She wasn't just learning how to care for patients, she was preparing to transform an entire profession. In 1854, during the Crimean War, Florence was asked to lead a group of nurses to British military hospitals in Turkey. What she found was horrifying. Wounded soldiers lay in overcrowded wards with poor ventilation. Sewage contaminated water supplies. Rats and insects spread infection. More soldiers were dying from disease than battle wounds. Florence immediately began implementing reforms. She insisted on cleaning the wards, improving ventilation, providing nutritious food, and organizing supplies. She collected data carefully, recording death rates and causes. Within months, mortality rates dropped dramatically. At night, she would walk through the wards carrying a lamp, checking on the soldiers. They called her the Lady with the Lamp. But her true power wasn't the lamp. It was her leadership and her use of data. Now, after the war, Florence returned to England a national hero. But she did not retire into fame. Instead, she published Notes on Nursing, a book that emphasized cleanliness, fresh air, proper nutrition, and compassionate care. Her principles remain foundational even today in nursing. She used statistical diagrams, including a now famous coxcomb chart, to show how sanitation reduced death rates. Her visual data persuaded the British government to reform military healthcare systems. In 1860, she founded the Nightingale Training School for nurses at St. Thomas' Hospital in London. It professionalized nursing and established rigorous standards. Florence Nightingale became the first woman to be admitted to the Royal Statistical Society. She showed that compassion and science are not opposites. They are partners. Florence Nightingale did not just nurse the wounded. She redefined healthcare. And every time a nurse checks a patient quietly in the night, that legacy still walks those halls. Lastly, we're going to talk about Pocahontas. Now, you may have heard of her, but it's nothing like the Disney version. So, Pocahontas was born around 1596 in what is now Virginia. Her birth name was Amanute, and Pocahontas was likely a nickname, meaning playful one or mischievous one. She was the daughter of, sorry if I pronounce this wrong, Wahunsenakwa, known to the English as Chief Powhatan, leader of a powerful confederacy of indigenous nations in the Tidewater region of Virginia. Again, my apologies if I mispronounced that. I'm sure I did, but I tried like 15 times to learn it correctly, so I did my best. When English settlers established Jamestown in 1607, tensions quickly rose. The colonists struggled to survive, facing famine, disease, and unfamiliar land. At times, Powhatan's people provided food and negotiated an uneasy peace. One famous story tells of Pocahontas saving Captain John Smith from execution. Smith claimed that as he was about to be killed, Pocahontas threw herself over him to stop it. Historians debate whether this was a literal rescue or maybe just a ceremonial adoption ritual, misunderstood by Smith. What is clear is that Pocahontas served as a bridge during moments of fragile diplomacy. She was basically a child navigating adult conflict. Now, in 1613, English colonists kidnapped Pocahontas during escalating hostilities. They held her for ransom, hoping to gain political leverage over Chief Powhatan. During her captivity, she was introduced to Christianity, and baptized, taking the name Rebecca. In 1614, she married English tobacco planter John Rolfe. Their marriage helped to establish a temporary peace between the Powhatan Confederacy and the English settlers, sometimes called the Peace of Pocahontas. But her story here is complex. Was the marriage her choice? Was it survival? Was it diplomacy? We don't know. Historical records reflect mostly English perspectives, making it very difficult to fully understand Pocahontas' voice. Okay, we don't know if she was forced into the marriage. We don't know if she fell in love with John Rolfe. We have no idea. All we can do is guess. Her life illustrates the complicated, often painful intersections of colonization, culture, and power. In 1616, Pocahontas, now Rebecca Rolfe, traveled to England with her husband and her infant son. The English presented her as proof that native peoples could be, quote, civilized, using her as a symbol in support of colonial expansion. Now, obviously, we know that their version of civilized has absolutely nothing to do with the Native Americans' version of civilized, right? There's absolutely nothing to say that she wasn't, okay? But the English were very, very biased. But while in England, she was reunited briefly with John Smith, whom she had not seen in years. Accounts describe her as dignified and poised, navigating foreign customs and scrutiny. But England was not her home. In 1617, as she prepared to return to Virginia, she became ill, possibly from pneumonia or tuberculosis. She died at approximately 21 or 22 years old in Gravesend, England. Her life was sadly short. Her story has often been romanticized into fairy tales, but the real Pocahontas lived in a time of upheaval, caught between two worlds, two cultures, and two visions of the future. However, she remains a powerful symbol, not of romance, but of encounter, conflict, and resilience at the dawn of American colonization. So remember, guys, when we look at all these women, these different women, they lived in different centuries, they spoke different languages, but every single one of them has something in common, and that is courage. That's inspiration. They've done something that nobody else could do. So I want you to think about that as you leave today and move on with your day. I want you to think, if somebody said, no, you can't do that, what will you do? Thanks for coming today, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.